Hi, I'm Nadira Jamal, and welcome to Taktaba, the video podcast on dance composition for belly dancers. The very first episode of Taktaba was released 1 year ago today, on October 17th, 2006. I was hoping to have another episode ready for you for the anniversary, but unfortunately that didn't happen. So instead, I'm going to share with you an excerpt from the Improvisation Mastery Mentoring Program, which is currently in pilot. Today we're going to talk about traveling patterns for belly dance. Now this is a quickie video, not a full episode, but it should give you plenty to geek out on. So have fun and happy dancing. Hi, this is Nadira Jamal with the Improvisation Mastery Mentoring Program. So let's begin by looking at traveling patterns. Why do we use traveling patterns? For one thing, they create a beautiful variety in your dance. They also help you organize your movement ideas. And as you know by now, how you structure and organize your dance is very important in helping your audience follow your train of thought. Traveling patterns also let us manipulate our audience's emotions, but we're always going to be doing this for their own good and for their own enjoyment. So let's look at some specific traveling patterns. These fall into two groups. The first group is patterns made up of straight lines. So this includes front to back, side to side, the V shape, and the square. Our second group is patterns made of curved lines, which includes the circle, the figure 8, and a serpentine shape. So let's look at these individually. The front to back pattern is a very powerful one. You're advancing on the audience, which makes you seem very powerful, very insistent, and very confident. When you retreat back to your original position, you're diffusing the tension. You're letting the audience off the hook. You can also turn around and retreat with your back to the audience, which is a very interesting choice. When your back is to the audience, you've broken eye contact, so instead of seeming like a person, they're more aware of your body as a whole. Alternatively, it can also give them the sense of being a voyeur, of watching a person when they're not being watched themselves. Our next pattern is side to side. This pattern has a great feeling of motion, but it doesn't change your relationship to the audience. You're not advancing or retreating, and you haven't changed your body angle. So it gives you this feeling of what you see is what you get, but with a nice motion from side to side. The next pattern, the V, is one of my favorites, and this is a very friendly pattern. Essentially, you visit each side, return to center, visit the other side, and return to center. Now, this is less insistent than the front to back pattern. You're not putting them on the spot so much because you're coming at them from an angle. So it just seems like, hey, let's visit this side. Now let's visit this side. That's why it's one of my favorites. The square shape is a very interesting choice too. It allows you to claim your space, but it has a very metered or orderly feeling. You will be breaking eye contact with the audience for a good portion of this shape, and it has this feeling of being very cerebral, very much about what you're thinking, not necessarily about what you're feeling. In the curved family, the obvious choice is the circle. Now this also claims your space, but it does it with a very grand, sweeping kind of feeling, and it feels very welcoming. The figure 8 is made up of two circles. This also has a very sweeping shape, but it also includes a lot of changes in your body angle, which makes it very interesting for your audience to watch. As you trace these two circles, you're constantly breaking and recreating eye contact, and that gives this a playful or a coy feeling, so that's a great choice there. The figure 8 can also be done front to back instead of side to side. This is a lot less common, but it's really pretty, so don't forget that you know it. Our last shape is the Serpentine Line. Now, this is a really cool one because it has a very winding path and a very mysterious feeling, but at the same time, it allows you to maintain eye contact with the audience. So you're still advancing on them, just like we do with front to back, but you're doing it in this winding, oblique way. And so this creates this entrancing, almost predatory feeling. So that's a great tool for making some drama. So we've looked at 7 patterns, but in summary, let's think about what these do for us. The straight lines have bold feelings. They can be very orderly. Many of them are very friendly, but they still have this kind of cerebral thinking feeling to them. The curved lines, on the other hand, have a mysterious feeling or a flirty feeling and are often much more entrancing and more emotional than the straight lines. So we have a whole palette of things to choose from. Now, we've covered several here, but for extra credit, think about what other traveling patterns you can imagine. I've got 4 or 5 that I use that I didn't even include here for time reasons, so I'm sure you can come up with some great ideas. So now that you have all this information, how do you incorporate it in your dancing? We will cover this in more detail in a full episode, but in the meantime, there are quite a few things that you can do. It's best to start by just walking through the patterns. Walk through each one after the other, until the pattern starts to make sense to your body and until the timing feels comfortable. Next, you can plug movements into these traveling patterns. You can use hip articulations, torso moves, arms, head, traveling steps, or even turns. And don't be afraid to try on different ideas. Next, try creating some combinations that use these traveling patterns. And as you do that, keep in mind the emotional impact of each pattern. How can you emphasize that in your combination? It's also very helpful to deconstruct how other dancers use these patterns. So look through video clips of dancers that you admire and see how they use traveling patterns. Then try on their ideas and see how you can make them your own. Finally, just put on some music and play. Sometimes we come up with our best ideas in the heat of the moment.